The glow of the candle between us flickered, casting soft shadows over Alex's face as he slid a small, wrapped box across the table. Our 5th anniversary dinner at Luigi's, the kind of cozy local spot you stumble upon and never forget, was wrapping up, but this moment felt like the beginning of something new. Inside the box was a vintage watch, its hands frozen at the moment we first met. Alex's eyes lit up with that boyish charm I fell for years ago. "Mia, it's perfect," he said, his voice a mix of surprise and deep affection. I had hunted for that watch for months, knowing how much it would mean to him. It was more than just a gift. It was a reminder of our journey, of the love we'd built day by day. The very next afternoon, our backyard buzzed with laughter and the sizzle of the grill. Alex and I, surrounded by a mosaic of friends, Layla and Raj from next door, Ethan and Nora from work, felt the warmth of our community. Our modest suburban home had never felt so full. The air was thick with the aroma of barbecue and the easy joy of people who've become more like family. We moved among our guests, Alex with his effortless charm and me, ever the hostess, making sure everyone's glass was full. It was the kind of day that makes you appreciate the simple things, the everyday moments that are the real fabric of our lives. Later that week, under a blanket of stars, I shared my dream with Alex. "I want to open my own bakery," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper, as if saying it louder might scare it away. Alex's hand found mine in the darkness. "Let's make it happen," he said without hesitation. His belief in me was the wind beneath my wings. We spent nights huddled over spreadsheets and sketches, our dreams spilling over the pages, a shared vision taking shape. That weekend, as we trekked through our favorite hiking trail, Alex guided me off the path to a rundown storefront in a quaint part of town. "What about this place for your bakery?" he suggested, his eyes gleaming with excitement. The space was small, the paint peeling, but it was perfect. It was our dream, raw and real, waiting for us to breathe life into it. As I stood there, looking at the future through the dusty windows, I knew that with Alex by my side, anything was possible. Our life together was a mosaic of these moments, each one a piece of a larger picture of love, support, and shared dreams. The moment the judges announced my cake as the second-place winner, the room erupted in cheers. I scanned the crowd for Alex and our friends, finding them on their feet, clapping and whistling. Alex's smile was the widest, his pride in me palpable even from across the room. Riding the high of that moment, I felt invincible, like my dream of opening a bakery was just within reach. "You did it, Mia." Alex hugged me tightly, his voice filled with excitement. "I knew you could." But that night was more than just a win, it was the beginning of a new chapter. Gabriel, one of the judges and a pastry chef I'd admired for years, approached me with an offer that would change everything. "Your talent is undeniable, Mia. How would you like to be my protégé?" His words were an echo of my wildest dreams. I was thrilled, overwhelmed by the prospect of learning from the best. "Yes, absolutely," I blurted out, my decision instantaneous. The weeks that followed were a blur of flour, sugar, and late nights. Gabriel's mentorship was demanding, and I found myself spending more and more time away from home, away from Alex. At first, he was supportive, taking over household duties without complaint, his texts always ending with, "I'm proud of you." But as my absences stretched longer, the texts became less frequent, our conversations shorter. The real test came when I had to make a choice between our annual weekend getaway, a tradition since our honeymoon, and a baking workshop with Gabriel. "I can't miss this opportunity, Alex," I explained over dinner, the words tasting bitter. Alex's disappointment was a heavy silence between us. "Our traditions used to mean something, Mia," he said, the hurt clear in his eyes. I argued that it was for our future, but even to my ears, it sounded like an excuse. That night, as I lay in bed next to Alex, the distance between us felt like miles. My heart ached for the understanding we used to share, but my mind was consumed with baking techniques and recipes. I was torn between the man I loved and the passion that filled me with purpose. Unbeknownst to me, each choice I made, each moment spent away, was slowly unraveling the fabric of our life together. The moment Gabriel mentioned the baking event in another city, my heart leapt. It was the kind of opportunity that could catapult my budding career to new heights. Without a second thought, I agreed, visions of standing among the best bakers swirling in my head. It wasn't until I was filling out the registration form that a pang of guilt hit me. I hadn't mentioned a word of this to Alex. My excitement overshadowed the oversight, and I rationalized it as a minor detail he'd understand. I booked my flight and hotel, caught up in a whirlwind of preparations. It was only when Alex stumbled upon the confirmation email that reality came crashing down. A week in New York? When were you going to tell me, Mia? His voice was a mix of hurt and disbelief. I had never seen Alex so upset. I was going to tell you tonight. It's a big deal for me, Alex, I stammered, trying to bridge the gap my silence had created. But the damage was done. Our kitchen, once filled with laughter and shared meals, turned into a battleground. It's always about your career now, isn't it? What about us? Alex's words stung, marking the beginning of a rift I hadn't seen coming. The week of the event was a blur. Between the workshops and networking, I barely had time to breathe, let alone check in back home. Yet, in the quiet moments, loneliness crept in. I missed Alex, but I pushed those feelings aside, focusing on the reason I was there. One evening, I called him from the quiet of my hotel room. The glow of the city lights a stark contrast to the darkness settling in my heart. Hey, I just wanted to check in, I said, my voice hopeful. But the warmth I yearned for wasn't there. I'm at Luigi's, Alex replied, his voice hollow. Remember this place? His words were a reminder of the distance growing between us, both physical and emotional. Then came the call that changed everything. Your father's in the hospital, Alex said, and the world around me stopped. Panic and guilt washed over me. I was hundreds of miles away, unreachable, when my family needed me the most. I'll book a flight back, I stuttered, scrambling to find a way home. No, stay. Finish what you started. Alex's voice was cold, resigned. I felt a chasm open up between us, one that no apology could bridge. I stayed, torn between my dream and my duty, a decision that haunted me with each passing day. Returning home was stepping into a silent storm. Alex's disappointment was palpable, a heavy presence in the room. I needed you, Mia. We needed you, he said, and I realized the magnitude of my absence. My pursuit of passion had cost me more than I could have imagined, leaving scars on the heart of my marriage that were too deep to heal with just words. The realization hit me hard. I had chosen my dream over us, and the price was a love fraying at the edges, threatening to unravel completely. The moment I stepped off the plane, my mind was racing with possibilities. The event with Gabriel had opened doors I never imagined possible, and my heart was ablaze with the prospects for my bakery dream. I couldn't wait to share everything with Alex, to tell him how close we were to making our shared dream a reality. But the moment I walked through our front door, the atmosphere was different, charged with a tension I couldn't place. Alex, you won't believe the opportunities that are coming our way. I gushed, my words tumbling out in a rush of excitement. Alex's response, however, was muted, his smile not reaching his eyes. That's great, Mia, he said, but his voice was flat, his usual enthusiasm nowhere to be found. I was too caught up in my own world to notice the depth of his detachment. Later that night, as we lay in bed, my phone buzzed with a message from Gabriel. Can't stop thinking about our last session. It was meant to be a reflection on the success of our work, but Alex, seeing the message first, didn't see it that way. Who's thinking about what now? He asked, his voice laced with a coldness I hadn't heard before. It's not what you think, Alex, I tried to explain, but the words felt hollow even to me. The trust we'd built over years seemed to crumble in an instant, replaced by a chasm of doubt and jealousy. In the days that followed, I noticed a change in Alex. He was distant, his warmth replaced by a cool detachment. I attributed it to the stress of his father's health scare, completely oblivious to the real source of his withdrawal. My own excitement about my career blinded me to the pain and neglect Alex was feeling. The opportunity of a lifetime came when Gabriel offered me a partnership in a new bakery venture. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of, a chance to leave my mark on the world of baking. We're going to change the game, Mia, Gabriel said, his enthusiasm infectious. I was over the moon, caught up in plans and designs, failing to see the storm brewing at home. Alex's resentment grew with every meeting I had with Gabriel, with every moment I dedicated to the bakery over our life together. My dream was becoming a reality, but at what cost? The gap between us widened, a gap filled with unspoken words and unresolved tensions. I was blind to the warning signs, too wrapped up in my success to see the damage it was causing. The foundation of our marriage was cracking, and I was too distracted to even notice. I came home buzzing with ideas and energy, barely through the door before I started gushing about the event, the people I met, and the doors opening before me. Gabriel had mentioned something that could change everything for me, for us. But as I looked at Alex, his face was a mask, his eyes not meeting mine. "That's great, Mia," he said, his voice flat, a stark contrast to my excitement. I barely noticed, caught up in a whirlwind of potential. It wasn't until later, when the house was quiet, that the storm broke. Alex's voice cut through the silence, sharp and cold. "Who is Gabriel to you, Mia?" He wasn't looking at me. He was holding my phone, an email from Gabriel open and glowing accusingly in his hand. The words on the screen were benign, discussing bakery plans, but it was the undertone Alex couldn't ignore. The trust we'd built over years was cracking under the weight of suspicion. I tried to explain, to tell him he was seeing things that weren't there, but Alex was hurt, feeling sidelined in a life we were supposed to build together. "It's always Gabriel, his ideas, his plans. Where do I fit into all this, Mia?" His voice broke, and for a moment, I saw the depth of his pain, the distance I'd inadvertently created between us. In a desperate bid to bridge the growing gap, Alex suggested couples therapy. I agreed, more to appease him than anything else. But my heart wasn't in it. Each session, I found myself checking the clock, my mind on flour ratios and oven temperatures rather than on mending the fissures in our marriage. Alex's frustration grew with every distracted nod, every rehearsed response I offered. Feeling more alone than ever, Alex turned to our friends Layla and Raj, seeking a solace I no longer provided. Over coffee and quiet confessions, he poured out his fears and doubts, but all they could offer was sympathy. "We're here for you, Alex," Layla said, her hand on his, a gesture of friendship that felt like a lifeline. But even surrounded by friends, Alex's isolation was palpable, a man adrift in a sea of unanswered questions and unresolved emotions. The more I threw myself into my work, the wider the chasm between us grew. Alex's attempts to reach me, to pull me back from the precipice, went unnoticed, lost in the noise of my ambition. Our home, once a haven of love and laughter, had become a battleground of silence and unspoken regrets. The ribbon cutting was a blur, the flash of cameras, the murmur of the crowd, and the sharp snip echoing in the crisp morning air. Our bakery, a dream woven from flour, sugar, and countless sleepless nights, stood gleaming under the sun's approving gaze. The local press, food critics, and a throng of eager patrons buzzed around the entrance, their excitement palpable. Gabriel stood beside me, our partnership now public, a beacon of success and the promise of fresh beginnings. Yet, as I prepared to address the gathering, my heart was elsewhere, heavy with unspoken words and the cost of this triumph. My journey here began with a simple love for baking, I started, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. And none of this would have been possible without Gabriel's guidance and expertise. The crowd applauded, their eyes fixed on us, a team poised for greatness. But as I continued, thanking Alex for his early support, the words felt hollow, a mere footnote in the grand narrative I was weaving. Alex's face, lost among the faces, was a mix of pride and something darker, unrecognizable. He was an afterthought in my speech, much like he had become in my life, overshadowed by my ambition and the bakery that now stood between us. Later, amid the laughter and congratulations, Nora's voice was a whisper of discord. "I saw you and Gabriel in New York," she said, her eyes darting away, it seemed intimate. Her words were a cold splash of reality, confirming Alex's worst fears, fears he had buried under layers of trust and denial. The revelation shattered him, the fragments of our marriage sharp and irretrievable. Driven by a need for closure, for something tangible to hold onto amid the lies, Alex made a decision that once would have been unthinkable. He hired a private investigator, a silent admission of the trust that had eroded between us. The investigator's findings, photos, and messages, were the final blow, undeniable proof of the betrayal Alex had feared but hoped was just his imagination. Confronted with the evidence, my world came crashing down. The bakery, once a symbol of my dreams and aspirations, now felt like a monument to my folly, a testament to the price of ambition. Alex's hurt, the look of a man betrayed, was a mirror to my own heartbreak, a love lost not to circumstance but to choices that were mine alone. The day the investigator handed me the envelope felt like the end of everything. My hands trembled as I sifted through the photos and messages, each one a nail in the coffin of our marriage. Alex's face, etched with betrayal and hurt, was all I could see as I tried to form words, any words, that could undo the damage. Alex, please, let me explain, I begged, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. My denial crumbled under the weight of irrefutable evidence, leaving me exposed in the harsh light of my actions. I thought we had something special, Mia. Alex's voice was low, strained with emotion. How could you? His question hung between us, a chasm too wide to bridge. I tried to explain, to speak of passion and ambition, but they sounded like excuses even to my own ears. Alex's heart had closed off to me, the man I loved slipping away before my eyes. The morning I found his letter was the morning I lost everything. His words were a quiet goodbye, a final admission of a love defeated by ambition and betrayal. He couldn't be part of my life anymore, he wrote, and with every word, I felt a piece of me die. The realization of my betrayal, of the pain I had caused, hit me with crushing finality. I was alone, truly alone, for the first time. In the weeks that followed, the bakery thrived, its success a bitter reminder of what I had sacrificed for it. Friends became strangers, their cold shoulders a reflection of the community's judgment. I reached out to Alex, desperate for forgiveness, for a sign that there was something left of us to salvage. But he was gone, his number changed, his whereabouts a mystery. The man I had built my world around had vanished, leaving me to face the consequences of my choices. The final scene played out in the restaurant where we had celebrated our love, where we had dreamed of a future together. I sat there alone, a table for two with only one chair occupied. The memories of what we had, of what I had thrown away, surrounded me like ghosts. Alex's absence was a physical pain, a void that no amount of success could fill. My reflection in the window stared back at me, a woman who had chosen her passion over her partner, and in doing so, had lost both. There was no redemption, no second chance. The narrative of our love, once full of promise, had closed on a chapter of isolation and regret, a cautionary tale of ambition's